Console gamers are more limited in terms of what shooters they can and can't play. They don't have access to things like Insurgency, at least not yet, Squad, Arma, Rising Storm, Red Orchestra. Hell, they don't even have a decent version of Team Fortress 2. So it's no surprise that console players will go back and play their favorite shooters from 3-4 years ago often. Even games like Battlefield Hardline or Star Wars Battlefront have a player base on console because it's just less saturated. So individual games, even if they're a little bit older, not as relevant, stay fairly saturated with a good amount of players. Keep that in mind because it makes a lot of what I'm about to say a lot more relevant and a lot less nitpicky. So, although consoles are becoming more comparable to PCs and consoles are not the sad 720p 30fps machines they used to be, they still miss out on things like being able to tweak graphics settings. Even though I have an Xbox One X, something that's really good at giving old games new life, I am kind of realizing the only thing that's holding back Battlefield 4 is at least on console, is its graphics. Really the only thing, other than maybe the refresh rate of the servers, but most people don't care and can overlook that. Now some people say it's all about frame rate, and for the most part, I would agree with you. But let's not pretend we live in some sort of fantasy world where resolution doesn't matter at all. Not many people want to play games in 720p or 900p, especially when they've bought 1080p monitors, which isn't that uncommon, 1080p TVs, 4K monitors, 4K TVs, 1440p monitors. Even a cheap 4K panel looks better than a 1080p panel, and so if you've upgraded to a 4K panel, playing games in native or dynamic 4K on your console feels really damn good. But, unfortunately, not every game on your PS4 Pro or Xbox One X is enhanced. And I think the reason EA, DICE, whether it's DICE LA or DICE Stockholm or whatever it might be, I think the reason they haven't updated Battlefield 4 and given it the enhancement that it definitely deserves is because it's really the only thing that's kinda hard to go back to. Like, let me explain. Battlefield 1 and 5 are probably my least favorite Battlefields. I like 5 more than 1 for a good couple of reasons. I've made those clear in my channel before, but ultimately they're not what I like from Battlefield. I much prefer Battlefield 3, 4, and Hardline to Battlefield 1 and 5. Now, if you don't own an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro, you might not know what I'm talking about, so you might deem it as irrelevant. The thing is that the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro can reinvigorate old games by upgrading their resolution, tightening up their frame rate, adding more settings, adding HDR support. And in the case of games like Red Dead Redemption 1, take a 10-year-old game and make it look like it came out like a year ago. Or even better. Resolution is not more important than frame rate, but when you're a console player, that's like the big factor right now. Because your game is either going to be 30 FPS, unlocked FPS, or 60 FPS. Unlocked is unstable, 30 FPS is still kind of the standard for a lot of games unfortunately, and 60 FPS is what you come to expect from your shooters. Now, Battlefield 4 nails 60 FPS on the Xbox One X, and that's the game console that I know about, so I'll talk about that more now for the rest of the video. It nails 60 FPS, but it's so soft and blurry and fuzzy that if I played Battlefield 5 in one evening and then switched over to Battlefield 4 in that same evening, which I sometimes do because Battlefield 5 doesn't quite scratch my Battlefield itch, the resolution really hurts it. Like, at a certain point, you're hurting your gameplay. Now, I think that when it comes to PC gaming, refresh rate is way bigger than resolution, but on console, resolution is kind of a big thing because console games are optimized to run at certain frame rates. That's why you have like dynamic 4K scaling in games like Call of Duty, which works really well, by the way. I don't know if you've played like a Black Ops 4, COD World War II, or even Infinite Warfare on an Xbox One X or PS4 Pro. It's just so incredibly sharp. And 60 FPS is what console players are used to, so let's not talk about the fact that 144 FPS is better than 60. Anybody with half an ounce of technical knowledge knows that. Not really relevant to bring it up. The thing is that when you're playing a game that's modern, like Battlefield 1 or 5, it's very sharp, especially on modern consoles. It's very sharp and crisp, it runs well, it looks nice, has an FOV slider, of course it has new effects and all of that, but really what gets you is the fact that things are so sharp even at a distance. It's such a good experience, it's a good gaming experience. And then you pop over to Battlefield 4 because maybe you prefer the gameplay mechanics of Battlefield 4, the map design of Battlefield 4, the just overall feel and look of Battlefield 4, and you're instantly reminded that it came out in 2014. Back when it was kind of unusual for a game to hit full 1080p resolution. Something that PlayStation fans constantly reminded people is that the PS4 just made games look prettier. Now that the Xbox One X can push games out at like 1800p, which is above 1440p but just below 2160p, which is 4K, and it can lock 60 FPS consistently, like Rainbow Six Siege is a great example of an incredibly enhanced, well-optimized Xbox One X game that runs at a nice frame rate and it looks incredibly sharp. It's hard to go back to older resolutions, especially if you play on a gaming monitor, and I feel like the reason DICE and EA don't want to enhance Battlefield 4 is because people might go back to it. That game holds up so well. So does Battlefield 3. I could say the same thing for Battlefield 3 as well. Even at the 30 FPS peasant console version, it still holds up gameplay-wise, and a lot of console players would have no problems heading on back to Battlefield 4 if it looked like a modern game. And the only thing it would need is a resolution increase. If you have Battlefield 4 on PC right now, fire it up in 720p on like a medium preset, and tell me if you think that's acceptable. Maybe it was for the VCR that was the original Xbox One. Yeah, I'm using this footage again from my Generation Zero review. But when you spend $500 on a liquid-cooled 6 teraflop fucking console that enhances old games and makes them look like they were remastered, makes them just come back to life, like Final Fantasy 13 or Red Dead Redemption or Skate 3, Sonic Generations. I've made this list before, I've made a video about this recently, but if the reason EA is keeping it out of people's hands is so that they don't go back to it, and they keep Battlefield 5 and 1 populated, that's fucking tragic, and it's not gonna work on me either, because I don't hate Battlefield 5, but it's not my kind of Battlefield. Overall, even when I said that Battlefield 5 was getting better, I still said it's not as good to me as Battlefield 4. And a lot of people feel the same way. I might be in the minority, maybe the people I'm thinking of are in the minority, but a lot of people feel like Battlefield 4 is just a better style of Battlefield. So let me summarize this. If you're an average console player, and you're kind of not digging Battlefield 5, you're not digging Battlefield 1, which are both Xbox One X enhanced and look brilliant on the platform, and you go like, okay, you know what, I want to play some Battlefield 4. You hop back on it, and as an average, I don't want to say console pleb, but you know, someone that's not totally technically savvy, you don't really know about, you know, pixel count or resolution or the importance of various things, you might hop on and not care, but a lot of people might hop on and go, holy shit, this older game is incredibly ugly and I don't want to play it. And honestly, it does affect your ability to play. Just seeing enemies at a distance is harder when it's like blur-o-vision. I would hope that they're not keeping the resolution down on Battlefield 4 on the Xbox One X and choosing not to enhance it because, well, you know, it could, you know, could take money and time away from other games. Especially when they're trying to get everybody and their grandmothers to play Battlefield 5's Firestorm Battle Royale. And like it or not, a large majority of gamers are on console, so they probably don't want console players thinking, well, at least I have Battlefield 4. No, it subtly separates Battlefield 4 from the newer Battlefield games by making it look so much worse. Because in your head, it's the inferior product. And maybe you go, well, who cares about resolution? It runs smooth. And I'm right there with you. But I feel like they're keeping it that way so that you're getting a downgraded experience. You get 30 Hz servers, you get blur-o-vision visuals, but I don't believe that my console can't handle a resolution bump on this game. Hell, just make it native 1080p and then turn up anti-aliasing. Or just make it 1440p with FXAA. That would look so much better than this. YouTube compression won't make it look this bad, but if you've played it, you know what I'm talking about. It's smooth as butter on the Xbox One X, and I will always love Battlefield 4, and I might even buy it for my new PC when I get it. I did that for Battlefield 3 for this PC, so Battlefield 4, you know, it's a timeless game in my mind. But I don't think EA wants it to be a timeless game in my mind. I think they want me to see it as an outdated, blurry piece of garbage trash. That's what the intention feels like, because the Xbox One X could totally handle it, the PS4 Pro could totally handle it, PCs handle it just fine. It's not really that new of a game, it's not really that big and shiny anymore, so I don't really believe that my Xbox can't run it at least 1440p, especially when it's running games like Battlefield 5 at like a dynamic 4K, like mid-range 4K area. I don't know, let me know what you think. I think it's pretty appalling if this is the case, but of course this is speculation from a consumer standpoint, and to top it off, a console player's standpoint, which is worth like half that of like a PC player's standpoint, am I right? Either way, let me know what you think. If EA is really trying to subconsciously cement Battlefield 4 as old news and get us to try to play newer Battlefield games so it looks nicer on our TVs and our displays and just nicer on our eyes, honestly, you can't argue that low resolution gameplay that's below 1080p is pretty goddamn ancient to look at. Even frame rate buffs on PC would say that, yeah, a game should at least be 1080p, you know, good lord. But if that's the case, and I'm not saying we for sure know it is, but if that is the case, I'm sorry EA, I'm sorry DICE, but you made and published a really good game, and you put so much time and money into making it better after its terrible launch that I'm not just gonna let it go. I'm never gonna give it up. I'm never gonna say goodbye. I'm no stranger.